Welcome to another FPL video. We're looking ahead to Game Week 19. We have some very good news surrounding the Premier League right now, and I'll also be discussing my Game Week 18 performance and what my transfer plans are. So let's get straight into the video. Let's start off with the big news that we've all been waiting for in regards to that meeting between the Premier League clubs and the board. So the Premier League is going to continue as things stand, but in order for postponements to be avoided, a team needs to field 13 outfield players and a goalkeeper, and that will be enough to avoid a postponement. And if the figure should be less, under 21 players who have first team experience have to step in. So clubs can't just say, oh, we don't have enough players, but they actually have some youth players who have experience in the first team. They have them available. They can't just say that, So those quotas are very clear, and you could say maybe in the last few weeks they haven't been. That's why some games have been postponed and others haven't. But it's looking pretty good. And the chief medic here, this is what he said, may also inquire over injured players. So that's good news coming out of the Premier League in regards to those who want the Premier League to continue. Some will definitely oppose this, such as Thomas Frank and a few other managers who probably wanted all the games to be postponed for the rest of the year, but it's looking good, and in terms of FPL we can continue as things stand, but this could easily change, and we'll be talking about the fixtures soon. There is still a few games, especially one that I have in mind, which still could be postponed, but most of them should go ahead as things stand, and it was always looking like it was going to be Game Week 20 that could be affected rather than Game Week 19. So my Game Week 18 performance, I have to say I'm very happy with it. 60 points from 8 players, all things considered, is pretty decent. There was a few low points, a few disappointments. I'll be talking about that. But on the whole, you can't complain too much. And I think 60 is a good score this week. I've seen a lot of people with 70s in the reaction stream yesterday. Obviously, fair play to all of you, especially those who brought in Martinelli and captain Joao Cancelo. That was all very impressive. Some very good decisions there, and I think that more decisions like that could easily propel you into some very good ranks. But Ramsdale in goal, I have to say, without that Ben White calamitous error, I think the clean sheet would have been very likely. Rafinha was looking a bit dangerous. He had 3 shots inside the box, but Leeds didn't really look that threatening throughout most of the game, and Ben White made that just unnecessary challenge on Gelhardt, and Rafinha dispatched the penalty very well. But yeah, otherwise it would have been a quite simple clean sheet, I think, for Ramsdale, who didn't really have anything to do, but unfortunately the clean sheet got wiped out. Then we're looking at the defence, and I have to say, once again, very impressive, and Big at the back worked very well this week, and it's starting to come back to the fore over the last few game weeks. So Alonso got maximum bonus points and the clean sheet. Reece James just got the clean sheet. He was not too far away from the bonus points, but didn't get them nonetheless. He did get them last week though, so can't really complain there. I still prefer Reece James over Alonso, but that double up isn't too bad. I know most people will be flocking to Cancelo and Diaz, and I think that is probably the best duo right now defensively. But Alonso and James isn't too bad, although I'm still a bit sceptical, and I'm looking to maybe move away from Alonso in the coming weeks. Trent once again with bonus points despite conceding twice, but got that assist. That was an amazing cross to Robertson, fullback to fullback. And yeah, that's 7 points for him, despite conceding 2 goals and not scoring himself, but got the assist, a maximum bonus. So very happy with Trent. And he's just a bonus points machine. The amount of chances he creates, the amount of passes he completes, and the crosses, all of that helps him massively in terms of the bonus points system. And speaking of bonus points, speaking of points, Joao Cancelo, 18, and once again, anyone who captained him, that is a very, very good shout. And I was talking about this in my deadline streams as well. I think if you're not looking for Salah, definitely the City-Newcastle game's the one to target, and I highlighted Cancelo, Foden, and De Bruyne. And in terms of Cancelo-Foden, I thought it was 50-50, but I actually edged towards Cancelo because he has more avenues to points, with the clean sheet also being a possibility. If Foden had played and kept the clean sheet, he only gets 1 point, as opposed to Cancelo, who would get 4. And also, he's just more likely to get bonus points in general, and Cancelo's more nailed. And yeah, speaking of Foden, unfortunately, he didn't play at all, but maybe in the coming weeks he can get back into the team. And I heard somewhere that pretty much the reason why Foden and Grealish weren't in the side was because of disciplinary issues or kind of off the field problems and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if that is reliable or not, but that is a bit of a shame, because otherwise he probably would have started and could have done very well. And Foden was a great captaincy shout this week. Those of you who did captain him, if you vice captain someone like Trent or Cancelo, obviously there's no problem there. But it's not ideal regardless. You wanted Foden to start. I think he could have been in for a big haul. Bernardo Silva playing a bit deeper in the last few game weeks, and still, I think the narrative would have shifted if he had got that assist for Gabriel Jesus. Didn't happen in the end, but still getting into some good positions, but just not as often, and I'm still willing to keep him and giving him a chance. But if I'm being honest, if this continues for several more game weeks, then I will pull the trigger and look to move him on. But yeah, if he can get into some more advanced positions in the next few games, then I wouldn't worry too much. And of course, even if he plays in a deeper role but gets the points, a bit like Gallagher at times, then there's no issue there. And Jota scored a headed goal, and he's actually got the most headed goals this season with 3, and that was a very well taken finish. And to be honest, I think he's just better with his head than he is when he's actually finishing normally. But yeah, Diego Jota is looking fantastic in my opinion. He is my favourite asset, around 7 million in the midfield. I prefer him over Mount, Foden, Bernardo, etc. And that will continue, I think, for the next month or so. Salah captaincy, that's the second blank this season, unfortunately, but you can't expect him to continue to deliver every single game week. That is very rare, and to be honest, it just doesn't happen for an entire season. Not even Ronaldo, Messi, or whoever you throw at me would be able to do that. But Salah's been very consistent, and there's a reason why a lot of people captain him despite the tough fixture on paper. But yeah, it didn't work out this time. Still had a few moments, but just nothing really concrete. It wasn't his best game. And yeah, we move on. Obviously, anyone who kind of went different, in most cases, actually succeeded this time. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I still think Salah going into next week is a great captaincy option. Now looking at my forwards, well, Dennis didn't play. The same goes for my bench. Foster, Antonio, Livramento and Douglas Luiz. But Lacazette, I brought him in for Jamie Vardy. He got the assist, and actually, if you look back at it, the way he got the assist was very lucky. I don't even think he touched it if you look at the replay, but I think he deserved one for the third one, so maybe it balances out. And Lacazette, that's the thing with him. He can have a very good game. He can be instrumental in how Arsenal attack, give players like Martinelli more space to operate in, but he doesn't get the points himself. But really, I wanted Watkins. That game got postponed, so I ended up going for Lacazette, who was really the only other option other than maybe Raul Jimenez. But yeah, I went with Lacazette, and there we go. He's a good option for the Norwich game. After that, that's where I'm probably looking to sell. He's kind of a short-term punt. He's still not too bad, though, in the grand scheme of things. There's some good fixtures coming up for Arsenal, but there is also some tough ones as well, like Manchester City. But Lacazette can do well in those games. Even the big games, he actually does score quite a few goals against the top 6. But I think his role has definitely changed, and he's even more deeper than he was in years gone by, which is saying something. But yeah, overall, pretty happy. 60 points. I got a small green arrow from around 54k to 47. It's not the worst. It could have been much, just much worse, to be honest. And in a good position going into game week 19. Only one free transfer, though. I did use up both of them heading into game week 18. And honestly, if it wasn't for the postponements, maybe I would have been able to save a transfer and have 2 heading into game week 19. But it is what it is. You have to adapt. And now let's look ahead to game week 19. So on top of one free transfer, I have 1 million in the bank, but I will be talking about kind of my transfer plans very soon. In terms of how I'm lining up, I've got Ramsdale in goal against Norwich. I think that's a very good fixture, but at the same time, I wouldn't be too surprised if the Canaries scored a goal and maybe caused a few problems for Arsenal. But the Gunners are in very good form. I have to say their home form is much better than their away form, but they just came off the back of a 4-1 victory against Leeds, and it could have been much more, to be honest. And I do expect Arsenal to comprehensively beat Norwich and maybe even get a clean sheet as well. I wouldn't be looking to captain Ramsdale, though. Definitely not. I know some people maybe put the vice captaincy on him because we all had our doubts about if the other 3 games would go ahead, but with the Arsenal Leeds game, it looked very likely that it would actually take place. And then looking at the defence, Reece James and Alonso, and this is where I was talking about the possible postponement. I think if any game is likely to be cancelled this week, it will be Aston Villa against Chelsea. Aston Villa just had an outbreak, and it was kind of brewing for the last week or so, and that's why I didn't get Watkins in ahead of game week 17. But obviously that's all down in the past, and then obviously it happened on the day that they were supposed to play Burnley. More cases came about, and then with Chelsea as well, they actually requested their game against Wolves to be postponed. That was denied by the Premier League, and Chelsea are supposedly getting cases every day according to Thomas Tuchel, so it's a very good chance that Chelsea against Villa is postponed, and we'll see what happens over the next week or so. I'll keep you updated, so follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM, for all the latest FPL and football updates. But yeah, I think that is the game that I'm most worried about. And if that's the case, I probably wouldn't want Livramento or, well, Douglas Luiz wouldn't even play, but I wouldn't want Livramento coming in. I don't have any problems with Dennis, but that's where I might make my transfer. If the Chelsea against Villa game is postponed, I might look to make a transfer because I'm just not confident in Livramento, especially when he's facing West Ham away. Then we look at the other defenders, Trent and Joao Cancelo. It's kind of the same old story, really, and James is also included in this conversation. They're kind of set and forgets. They're always in my starting 11, despite the fixture. And Leeds at home is still a good fixture. Van Dijk should be back. Liverpool should look more solid than they did against Spurs, but Liverpool are still shaky, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rafinha caused some problems, maybe even got a goal or an assist. But yeah, I'm not going to be benching Trent anytime soon. And the same goes for Joao Cancelo, who has a difficult fixture on paper, at least from a defensive point of view. But City should win that game quite comfortably. They're a much better team than Leicester, and I think that Cancelo can actually also keep the clean sheet and maybe be a great captaincy option. So right now I've got the vice captaincy on Foden. I am considering putting it on Joao Cancelo instead. But yeah, speaking of Foden, I'll still start him, and we'll wait and see if he actually is in the lineup this time. I'm fairly confident, but if it is disciplinary issues, then that will be a concern, and maybe Pep will leave him out for another game week. But he was on the bench last time, so I don't think he's fallen that much out of favour if anything has happened between the two. And then Salah captain, I think this is very simple this week. Now, looking at game week 18, there was a definite argument to go to Cancelo, maybe De Bruyne and a few other City assets. But right now, I think Salah at home to Leeds, who have been conceding so many goals recently, it just makes complete sense. They conceded 11 goals in the last 2 games. And even against Chelsea, where they were pretty good, they were very unlucky not to come away with a draw or a win. They conceded 3 there as well, 2 penalties. And Leeds are down to the bare bones. They should have some players coming back. But heading into the Arsenal game, they had 9 available players, and that involved 2 goalkeepers, and they actually had some players like Harrison come off through injury. So it's not looking good for Leeds at the moment. They're in poor form, they're struck by injuries, and they desperately need their best players back. Rafinha, in my opinion, is their best player, but other than him, they just don't really have anyone of a high quality to really drag them through these games, and Liverpool should win this comprehensively. So I think Salah is a no-brainer captaincy choice this week. And then Jota, he's also another nice shout for the captaincy. The same goes for Trent, but kind of a word of advice. I think it's not ideal to captain and vice-captain players of the same team, so try to change it up a bit just in case a game is postponed, because then you lose out on captaincy points altogether. But I think Jota should do very well. Firmino's now back and available. I'm not sure who's going to start there. It could actually be Firmino in place of Jota, but yeah, I'm not going to be benching Jota just in case Firmino takes his place or not. And then Bernardo Silva, just hoping for him to play in an advanced role. He actually scored the winner against Leicester earlier in the season and did very well. And I just think Bernardo Silva, when he actually does produce some goals or assists, he's just very explosive. And I just hope that he can get into these more advanced positions. He still was doing it against Newcastle, but I just want to see that more often. And hopefully, if he does create some chances, players like Gabriel Jesus or whoever's playing up front like Sterling, they could actually finish off the chances and Bernardo can get in amongst the points. But I am keeping my eye on the City midfielders. I never really wanted to bring in Foden, to be honest, but Game Week 18 kind of required that sort of move. And I don't like triple City. I'll probably be looking to move away from that and maybe have 2. Cancelo's definitely a no-brainer, and I don't mind a double up, but I think a triple up with Pep Roulette is just not ideal. And then my forwards, I've got Lacazette away to Norwich and Antonio at home to Southampton. I actually think that Antonio is a great vice-captaincy option. I probably wouldn't captain him over Salah, but I am actually also considering Antonio for the vice-captaincy, and I think he could do very well against the Saints, who have been struggling a lot recently. Lacazette is not a bad shout, maybe for a vice-captaincy, but I just don't think his ceiling is as high, at least in most cases. I wouldn't mind a nice double-digit return here. But with Arsenal, I would rather have their midfielders like Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli, etc. over Lacazette. But yeah, at the moment I've got Lacazette. I'm not going to get him out right now, but in the coming weeks, he's probably one of those I'm looking to transfer out and make moves elsewhere. And Dennis on the bench, I think if the Chelsea-Villa game goes ahead, I would have a very big dilemma there in terms of who do I start between Marcos Alonso and Emmanuel Dennis. Whichever kind of Chelsea defender you bench between Alonso and James, it can go either way. You could bench the wrong one because one of them gets a goal or an assist and the other one just has the goals conceded and all of that. So they're limited to maybe 0 to 2 points. It's happened before in the last few game weeks. But I would rather start Reece James in most cases. and really it's just between Dennis and Alonso in terms of my team selection. The rest is kind of nailed in, and if the Chelsea against Villa game is postponed, then that's where I might make a transfer just so I can prevent Livramento coming on, because that is just not ideal when he's facing West Ham. So the plan is to hold the transfer this week and have 2 free transfers heading into Game Week 20, but if the Chelsea against Villa game is postponed, then I think I'll be making a move. Either Livramento or Douglas Luiz will make way, and if it is Douglas Luiz, I think it just makes complete sense to get Martinelli in, who is still 5.3 million, and I would still have 0.2 million in the bank with that move. But otherwise, if I do get rid of Livramento instead, I could maybe go for Tierney, maybe Soufal, Spurs defender like Reguilon, for example. I think he should be back into the side very soon, and he's just recovering from an injury. That's why Sessegnon took his place against Liverpool. But yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate it too much. I think Cash is another good option, but there's no point getting him in for Livramento if the Chelsea against Villa game is postponed. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below about my transfer plans. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. It's all very much appreciated, all the support. And you can also join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. And as I said earlier, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube username. And also, I'm looking to do a rating your teams video, so all you have to do is follow me on Twitter and Instagram, send a clean cropped image of your team, and you can feature. And if you want a reference point, check out my previous rating your team videos and you can see what I'm on about. But before we conclude this video, let's have a look at the fixtures. So I already highlighted that game multiple times, Aston Villa versus Chelsea, as one that I think could be postponed. In terms of the others, I'm not as doubtful. I think most of the games should go ahead. There might be 1 or 2 that might be postponed. You maybe Watford, you could look at that against Wolves. But ultimately, I'm looking at that Villa versus Chelsea game. That's what I'm not confident about at all. Norwich versus Arsenal, there's actually the odd chance that doesn't go ahead too, because Norwich have so many cases themselves. But the rest, I think, should be fine. Ultimately, as much as you can plan and make some good decisions that influence your results, a lot of this is down to luck, especially when certain games are postponed and others aren't. But I think the main thing to do here in terms of the fixtures, in terms of planning and everything, is try to avoid triple ups with certain teams. You know, when you're tripling up on Liverpool, it makes complete sense, but try not to do that with multiple teams like Chelsea, Arsenal, City as well. Try to avoid too many triple ups in your team, and also try to vice captain a player from a different team from your actual captain, just to change things up and to reduce the possibility of you losing out on captaincy points. So there are certain measures you can take in order to prevent you from just being completely unraveled, completely destroyed by postponements, but at the same time a lot of it is down to luck and there's not much you can do in certain cases. But once again, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the football. Hopefully all of it goes ahead and smoothly and everything is safe, and yeah, we can just enjoy football over the Christmas period as is tradition in the UK. But thank you very much as always, and good luck with FPL and UCL Fantasy, where more content is coming out for both fantasy formats, and I'll see you next time.